He's always been aloof. He doesn't like people knowing about him. And I always tell him, babe, you need to change the narrative.
To be with the woman I love, I gotta put my guard down?
Yeah, you have to.
No.
I said the wedding's not a good reason because it's messing up my relationship.
Toni Braxton has officially broken her silence, and what she revealed about Birdman and Cash Money has everyone stunned. For years, people whispered about Birdman's empire being tied to eerie, dark practices. But now, Toni's truth is shaking up the industry. According to her, Birdman wasn't just surrounded by bad energy, he was feeding off it. And in the end, that same dark energy started poisoning him from the inside out. Let's rewind for a second. When news first broke about Toni Braxton and Birdman being together, people were confused. I mean, come on. Toni, the elegant Grammy-winning R&B legend, known for her class and sophistication, dating Birdman, the tattooed mogul behind Cash Money Records. It sounded like a headline meant to break the internet. But their story wasn't some publicity stunt. It was real, maybe too real.
You know, me and him have been friends for 16 years.
I know you had a song like 15 years ago,
Yeah,
too,
we've
right?
been like besties for a long time.
Behind the love and luxury was a deep connection built on pain, trauma, and power. Birdman had always been surrounded by mystery, flashy cars, secret deals, and rumors that his success came at a spiritual cost. People in the industry often said Cash Money was built on blood and silence. And for the longest time, Toni ignored that talk. She believed love could change him. But the deeper she got, the more she realized that this wasn't just about music or money. This was about control, about power, and about a kind of loyalty that demanded more than she could ever give. Insiders close to Toni claim she started noticing strange things around Birdman. Moments where his energy would shift completely, almost like he was fighting something unseen. The vibe in his house, the way he talked about success, and even the people around him, it all started to feel off. It's said that Toni began connecting dots between the tragedies that followed Birdman's empire, lost friendships, sudden deaths, and constant chaos, and the toll it was taking on him personally. At one point, Toni reportedly confided in a friend saying, "It's like he's being haunted by his own choices." And that's when it clicked. The same dark power that helped build Cash Money was slowly destroying its king. Birdman's health started to slip, his moods became unpredictable, and Toni realized the man she loved was trapped in something spiritual, something dangerous. When she decided to walk away, it wasn't because the spark had died, it was because she had seen too much. That kind of darkness doesn't just disappear with love, it consumes everything around it. And according to Toni, Birdman refused to let go of the world he built, even if it was destroying him piece by piece. The wildest part? That secret marriage everyone thought was just a rumor. Toni confirmed it did happen. But it didn't end with heartbreak over love. It ended with survival. She had to save herself from a man who, in her words, was poisoning himself with his own power. Now fans are wondering, was Toni Braxton's silence protection or a warning of something much deeper still unfolding behind the Cash Money curtain? It was real. Real enough to send paperwork flying and panic rippling through the industry. Just 2 weeks after Toni Braxton and Birdman secretly tied the knot, everything came crashing down. Legal docs surfaced, blogs went crazy, and denials poured across the internet like wildfire. Toni jumped online in full damage control mode, calling the whole thing all cap and scrubbing every trace of the union from her pages. But that wasn't panic. That was escape. She wasn't just walking away, she was cutting off something toxic before it pulled her under. Everyone in the game already knew whispers about Cash Money's backroom chaos weren't new. Rumors of strange meetings, coded decisions, and unexplained disappearances had been circling for years. Artists like Juvenile, Turk, and even BG had been hinting about shady dealings behind the velvet curtains of that empire. But Toni didn't just hear about that dark side, she saw it. For a woman who had already battled lupus, survived open-heart surgery, and stared down death more than once, this wasn't just another test. This was spiritual warfare. Toni came face to face with Birdman's hidden world and knew this wasn't a fight she could win by staying. The energy around him wasn't just heavy, it was suffocating. So she did what survivors do. She disappeared from that narrative, cleaned house on her socials, and redirected her focus to what mattered: staying alive, staying healthy, and staying Toni Braxton. Meanwhile, Birdman's world started to crumble right before everyone's eyes. Cameras caught him during shows looking distant, his eyes half closed, his words slurred, and his movements slow like his soul was running on empty. One viral clip showed him literally dozing off mid-performance while the crowd murmured in confusion. Fans flooded the comments saying things like, "He don't look right," and "That ain't the Birdman we know." Before long, the internet had its nickname ready. People started calling him the Black Joe Biden because of how spaced out he seemed on stage. It might have sounded like a joke online, but behind the laughs was concern and fear. Some swore it looked like Birdman was having seizures. Others claimed it was the side effects of heavy lean use catching up to him. Whatever it was, those clips told a story his team couldn't hide anymore. Each new video showed a man fading, Birdman standing under the spotlight, motionless, drifting mid-sentence like his mind wasn't even there. It was eerie, tragic, and hard to watch. Fans said it looked like deja vu, the fall of another legend haunted by his own empire. Still, the people closest to him rushed to shut it all down, claiming it was stress, exhaustion, too much travel. But the truth? You could see it on his face. The man who once stood untouchable, the symbol of Cash Money's unstoppable power, suddenly looked like he was battling invisible demons that not even money, fame, or denial could hide anymore. When the footage of Birdman started spreading online, BG was quick to jump in front of the camera, laughing like it was all a big misunderstanding. "Man, that boy all business," he told the interviewer, brushing it off with a smirk. According to BG and the rest of the crew, Birdman wasn't high, wasn't sick. He was just struggling to read the teleprompter. That's the official story they keep pushing. No relapse, no breakdown, no demons, just fatigue, bad angles, and internet exaggeration. But here's the thing. Maybe that's just what they want people to believe. Because when you look at those clips, Birdman swaying under the lights, eyes half shut while the music keeps pounding, it doesn't look like a man reading too slow. It looks like a man haunted. And if you followed the history of Cash Money, you know the pattern. Artists vanish, voices fade, and careers go silent. The empire that once screamed success now whispers tragedy. Too many names connected to that camp have fallen, burned out, or disappeared into the shadows. So let's be honest, Toni didn't just leave a man, she escaped a machine that was devouring itself from the inside out. The Cash Money empire wasn't built like a label. It was structured like a ritual. Birdman's name has been tied to the word ritual for years, but not the movie-type ones with candles or pentagrams. No, these were rituals made of power, loyalty, and silence. The kind where your success depended on how far you'd go to prove obedience. From the outside, Cash Money looked like pure flash. Gold chains, Ferraris, stacks of money, and swagger for days. But behind that shine, it moved like a secret society. Every new artist had to show submission before they ever got the official chain around their neck. Nothing came free. That famous on-the-lips kiss between Birdman and Wayne, the daddy nickname, the matching tattoos, those weren't random acts of affection. They were pledges, symbols that once you were in, there was no halfway loyalty. You lived and breathed the brand, or you didn't last long. Birdman made ritual out of routine. Every car lineup, every money-counting session, every diamond stack display was like a sermon about power. This came from me. That was the unspoken message behind every gift, every gesture. It was his way of reminding everyone exactly who held the crown and what it cost to stay close to it. Inside that world, keeping your mouth shut wasn't just loyalty. It was survival. You didn't question the system. You played your role. And when Toni saw that up close, she recognized the trap. She didn't run from love. She ran from control disguised as devotion. Because once you see the ritual for what it is, you stop calling it business and start calling it bondage.
You know what was weird to me when I got the Cash Money? It was the weirdest thing. So I knew they had all these artists on the label.
Right.
So I get to the label, and then all of a sudden, they let all the artists go, all the other artists go.
Mm-hmm.
And they start telling me, you know, it's gonna be you and Wayne and BG.
People who ever dared to push back against Birdman's system didn't just lose favor, they vanished from the spotlight altogether. UNLV, Kilo G, Names that once carried weight in the Cash Money circle just disappeared like they never existed. Some insiders even whisper that Kilo's death wasn't random at all, that he was taken out after speaking against Birdman's control. Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but fear was the real business plan inside that empire. And for years, that fear worked until Lil Wayne finally stood up. When Wayne pushed back, the cracks in that Cash Money family image started showing fast. What fans once saw as magic, brotherhood, and loyalty began looking like manipulation dressed up in gold chains and luxury cars. That wasn't family. That was control. The charm wore off, and people started seeing the truth hiding beneath the diamonds. Online, folks love to hype Cash Money's rituals like some kind of secret occult operation, but the truth is way simpler and colder. Birdman didn't need black candles or hidden ceremonies to keep people in line. His rituals were built on silence, obedience, and submission. The real sacrifices weren't goats or offerings. They were people's independence, freedom, and identity. Every artist who walked into that circle had to give up something to stay there. And Birdman repeated that same pattern so many times, it became religion, even if it was fake. That's the world Toni Braxton walked into. She wasn't just dating a music mogul, she was stepping into a kingdom built on control. She saw how rooms froze when Birdman walked in, how his team moved like soldiers guarding a throne, not a man. To Toni, it didn't feel like love, it felt like a warning. Around him, worship wasn't admiration, it was the rule. And Toni, she wasn't built for that. After fighting lupus, surviving heart surgery, and rebuilding her life from the ground up, she wasn't about to bow to anyone, not even Birdman. She fought too hard for her peace and sanity to let anyone own her spirit, so she did what few dared to do. She broke the cycle. The only way to win that kind of game was to walk away completely. And when she did, everything started falling apart. The illusion cracked, the empire shook, and Birdman's untouchable image began to crumble in real time. Their marriage, which the world barely knew existed, became the first public fracture in Birdman's downfall. They went public as a couple in 2016, but sources say they secretly tied the knot in late 2024, only for the honeymoon to collapse before it even began. Just 2 days after the ceremony, Toni filed for divorce, calling it an irretrievably broken union. She later withdrew it in January 2025, but by mid-year, both had wiped each other from social media, a silent confirmation that the split was real. Then Birdman snapped back online, accusing Toni of cashing in on his name. But deep down, everyone could see who really lost control. After Toni Braxton filed to walk away, Birdman went on full defense mode, and it got ugly fast. He started labeling her a gold digger, claiming she had pawned her engagement ring and was pushing for a wild $160 million payout. The second that story hit the gossip blogs and live reaction streams, it was like dropping a match in a room full of gas. The internet split right down the middle, half defending Toni as a woman reclaiming her worth, the other half calling her out for chasing a bag she didn't earn. It turned into a culture war overnight. R&B and pop media painted Birdman as a manipulative puppet master, the kind of man who used power to control women and hide behind money. But down south, in the trap and street rap circles, it was a whole different story. They saw Birdman's reaction as classic boss energy, a man who never backs down no matter who's coming at him. In that world, defiance is currency, and Birdman cashed in on that image hard. Money-wise, Birdman stayed solid. Since Toni's divorce filings were dismissed, he avoided taking a real financial hit. But reputationally, the damage was deep. Meanwhile, Toni had the public's heart, at least at first. People felt for her, a woman who gave her all to a man wrapped in chaos. But when the talk about the $160 million demand and the missing $5 million engagement ring started spinning, everything shifted. Suddenly, the headlines dragged up her old bankruptcies, the messy lawsuits, and the financial missteps she'd fought years to recover from. Some sponsors pulled back quietly, worried about the controversy. But what didn't stop was the streams. Her old hits started climbing the charts again, playlists revived her classics, and fans rediscovered the soul that made Toni Braxton a legend in the first place. Even better, her documentary work about women's financial independence, something she'd been working on quietly, got new traction. Suddenly, Toni wasn't just a singer in a messy breakup. She was a survivor telling women to reclaim their voice and protect their coins. Cash Money, Records, on the other hand, couldn't dodge the blowback. The drama exposed cracks that had already been there for years. Birdman's relationships with legacy artists, especially producers and mid-tier acts tied to Lil Wayne's Young Money circle, got real cold. Some collabs froze completely, and upcoming releases got delayed when artists didn't want to be caught in the crossfire of the feud. But Birdman did what Birdman always does: flip the chaos into marketing. He used the gossip buzz to push rich gang releases, turning messy tabloid headlines into streams and trending hashtags. Even with the internet roasting him, he found a way to turn scandal into sales. When the smoke finally cleared, Birdman still had Cash Money under his belt, but his cultural power wasn't the same. The mystique was gone. The love was gone. Toni walked away with empathy and fresh attention. Even if some skeptics still question her motives, the old Cash Money alliance, it's done for good. And now people are asking, were those financial rituals inside the label the real secret behind its power all along? Jadakiss once joked about it on stage, but the way things are looking, he might not have been joking after all. Say what you want about Birdman, Cash Money did shape Southern hip-hop forever. The label built an empire of hits that defined an entire generation. But beneath the shine, the cars, the designer threads, and the mansion photo shoots, there was a darker machine running quietly behind the scenes. One built to keep artists trapped while Birdman stayed on top. What looked like business genius on the surface started to feel more like systemic control. For years, people inside the label whispered about how the deals worked. Artists would sign for life-changing advances that never fully arrived, or worse, came with fine print that turned blessings into debts. The advances were really just loans, structured as recoupable payments that put artists right back in the hole after every release. And when anyone tried to ask questions, the books were always under review. No transparency, no receipts, just power. Take Turk's $10 million lawsuit, for example. He revealed that even as a teenager, his contract was locked in by a lawyer who was representing both him and the label. That's a wild conflict of interest, one that guaranteed every deal tilted straight in Cash Money's favor. He never stood a chance. Then came Lil Wayne's legendary 2017 lawsuit, the one that cracked the facade wide open. Wayne accused Cash Money and Universal of playing him from both sides, cutting secret deals to mess with his streaming and publishing profits. Years of work, billions of streams, and still, Wayne had to fight for what was rightfully his. In the end, he settled, but not for the full amount he'd earned, just enough to move on and finally claim freedom. That right there told fans everything about how deep the control went. Birdman's whole empire ran like a ritual, not with candles or chants, but with contracts and chains. He'd front his artists flashy cars, cash, or jewelry, but those weren't real payments. They were symbols, ways to keep loyalty locked in. It was the same strategy Suge Knight used on the West Coast, just dressed up in designer fashion and Southern swagger. Every gift was a leash disguised as love. The contracts themselves were part of the ritual too. Cash Money's infamous 1998 deal with Universal set the tone for decades. An 80-20 profit split, and not in favor of the artists. The label took the lion's share, and that playbook became Birdman's blueprint. He used that same power dynamic on every artist under him, controlling masters, blocking royalty statements, and keeping the money trail nearly impossible to trace. Even the pioneers who helped build the empire got burned. Early negotiators like Wendy Day never saw a dime of what they were promised. And Birdman's infamous line became a cold industry punchline. Sue me when I have to pay you. You'll get paid. It wasn't just arrogance, it was his business code. And when the walls started closing in, Universal didn't punish him, they bailed him out.
I never allowed none of the labels to own nothing. I own everything.
Universal.
No, Universal.
They helped cover Cash Money's debts in exchange for more control over distribution. The empire survived, but its soul was long gone. What Birdman and Cash Money built wasn't just a label, it was a money maze. Unpaid profits from artists were quietly flipped into corporate leverage, turning music royalties into power chips. Insiders started calling it ghost royalties, cash that should have gone to the artists, but instead got funneled upstairs, feeding a hidden layer of executives who stayed untouchable while the performers stayed broke. Inside the camp, loyalty came with perks, Lamborghinis, diamond watches, and front row seats at every show. But the price of disobedience? Brutal. Miss one call, question the money, or talk too loud, and you'd find your album delayed, your checks frozen, or worse, your name erased from every industry list. The world saw private jets, helicopters, and mansion photo shoots, the Stunner Island dream life. But behind the bling, the system was medieval. By 2025, insiders described Cash Money as a feudal kingdom. Birdman and Slim sat at the throne, while younger acts like Jacquees pledged lifetime loyalty just to keep their spot. It wasn't witchcraft or secret spells, it was habit, strategy, and intimidation wrapped in designer fashion. The rituals weren't mystical, they were financial. Birdman weaponized money to maintain absolute power, proving that behind all the flash, the system only served one purpose: keep the throne protected. But by early 2025, the cracks were starting to show. Some of the biggest names in the camp began making silent moves behind Birdman's back, quiet but calculated. The tension was boiling. Lil Wayne, Juvenile, Turk, even Drake were all reading the room, and they knew the old loyalty code was fading fast. Wayne especially made it loud and clear he wasn't playing Birdman's game anymore.
The greatest, biggest rapper alive, motherfucking Tucci. Who line this motherfucker? Oh, I'm not finished. And the whole gang, we love y'all. I.
During the Hot Boys reunion tour, he and the crew walked off mid-show while Birdman was hyping the crowd, leaving him alone on stage. The clip went viral instantly. Fans went wild, calling it the moment Wayne took his crown back. But the real sting came weeks earlier at Lil Louisiana Fest 2025, when Birdman tried to dedicate a set to his late mother, Ms. Gladys, and Wayne straight up cut him off mid-speech. The look on Birdman's face said everything. Whatever forgiveness came out of their 2018 settlement had officially expired. Old wounds, old checks, old rules, done. Wayne was reclaiming his lane and rewriting his own legacy. Juvenile handled it differently, cool-headed but firm. During the Cash Money Millionaire's 30th anniversary tour, he publicly called out Birdman's booking team for underpaying Turk and sidelining him altogether. He admitted it put him in a weird spot, torn between loyalty and doing what's right. By the summer, he stopped entertaining the drama and poured that energy into new projects, showing fans where his real loyalty was: to the music. And then came Drake, the same Drake that Kendrick called a snake on wax. Say what you want, but Drizzy plays chess, not checkers. He didn't throw public shots at Birdman, but behind the scenes, he was making serious power moves. His 2025 lawsuit against Universal proved that he wasn't just an artist anymore, he was coming for ownership. By 2025, Birdman's empire wasn't collapsing, it was mutating. His distribution game stopped being about friendship or loyalty. It was pure chess moves now. Everyone in the industry could see it. Birdman was outgrowing his own orbit, slowly pivoting toward independence, but still keeping just enough ties to benefit from the artists he helped build. He wasn't sentimental, he was strategic. Every partnership, every quote, every handshake was a power play. Meanwhile, Nicki Minaj played it cooler than anyone else in the room. She stayed silent, sharp, and intentional. Birdman bragged in interviews that Cash Money had made over $2 billion off Lil Wayne, Drake, and Nicki, claiming he'd paid them handsomely. But Nicki never confirmed, never denied. Her recent releases, they were running through her own imprint setups, not Birdman's infrastructure. She moved quietly, built her brand separately, and dodged every bullet flying between the label's old guard. It was a boss move, respect maintained, reputation untouched. By the end of 2025, Birdman's so-called Big Three, Wayne, Drake, and Nicki, weren't really connected to him anymore. Wayne was walking off stage mid-speech, Juvenile was publicly calling out unfair bookings, Drake was filing lawsuits, and Nicki was playing chess from afar. Together, they painted a picture that couldn't be ignored. Loyalty had limits, and everyone was finally taking control of their own narratives. Behind the cameras, whispers spread like wildfire, lawsuits in motion, exits in progress, and alliances forming behind closed doors. Everyone could feel it. One wrong move and Cash Money's whole structure could flip upside down. The tension had reached the boiling point. Inside the label, it was chaos. Cash Money studios and tours had turned into war zones of energy. Drama, egos, and control battles colliding non-stop. What was supposed to be a reunion became a meltdown. The tension that once stayed hidden behind expensive doors was spilling out onto social media, live shows, and leaked studio footage. Fans ate it up like candy. Hip-hop always thrives on drama, and Cash Money was serving it hot. Behind the scenes, Birdman still ruled like a general, controlling features, deadlines, and even deciding which songs saw daylight. If an artist stepped out of line, whole albums could vanish overnight. The power wasn't subtle. It was fear wrapped in finesse. And when the artist finally snapped back, the footage said it all. Leaked studio clips showed Wayne and Birdman in full-blown shouting matches, arguing about royalties, track lists, and creative direction. It wasn't brotherhood anymore. It was business gone bad. Still, Wayne refused to fold. He'd been silenced before, but not this time. Drake and Nicki played it smarter. They kept their distance, sending verses remotely instead of showing up to Birdman-controlled sessions. That wasn't coincidence. It was survival. They knew better than to get caught in the fire. Meanwhile, the Cash Money Millionaire's 30th anniversary tour, meant to celebrate a legacy, turned into a circus. Canceled shows, shuffled lineups, missed appearances. It was chaos dressed as celebration. And behind every delay, one name stayed at the center: Birdman, the king whose empire was finally starting to eat itself alive. At least one major Cash Money concert got axed at the very last minute. And that's when the rumors exploded. Officially, it was scheduling conflicts, but everyone knew that was just the polite excuse. Behind the scenes, insiders whispered about blown logistics, clashing egos, and straight-up internal feuds. Fans didn't buy the PR spin for a second. They saw it as yet another sign that Birdman's heavy-handed control was choking the whole machine. Loyalty under Birdman's watch always came with strings, and now those strings were snapping one by one. When the Hot Boys segment finally did go down, the tension was so thick you could feel it through the screen. Lil Wayne straight up cut Birdman off mid-speech in front of thousands of screaming fans, refusing to let him finish. That wasn't an accident. That was a message. Right there on stage, Wayne made it clear: the old brotherhood, the fake smiles, the rehearsed family image, all of it was over. Fans screamed, phones flew up, and social media lit up instantly with clips replayed millions of times within hours. Missed arrivals, mysterious lineup swaps, and last-minute no-shows turned every concert stop into a full-blown guessing game. Nobody knew who was actually going to hit the stage. Fans came for music but stayed for the drama because anything could happen. It was unpredictable, chaotic, and honestly, the messiness was part of the thrill. But while fans were entertained, the industry was watching carefully. Every move, every awkward moment, every IG story. People read them like coded messages. Backstage whispers said sponsors were getting nervous. The energy had shifted. Insiders claimed several major brands were quietly pulling back from supporting Cash Money events, worried that one night's show could turn into a viral blow-up or public meltdown. No one wanted their logo sitting behind a feud that might erupt on camera. Still, for die-hard fans, this was the show. They didn't want peace. They wanted the tension, the stares, the subtle shade. Every body language cue became a headline. Fans dissected every onstage gesture, every lyric drop, every tweet, searching for hidden meanings. The internet became a battlefield of theories. Wayne's ignoring Birdman, Nicki unfollowed Slim, Drake's verse is a shot, all part of the non-stop circus that Cash Money had become. By late 2025, Cash Money wasn't just a label anymore. It was a live soap opera. The studio drama, the canceled shows, the heated moments caught on camera. It all blended into one huge spectacle that blurred the line between music and mayhem. Birdman might have built a dynasty, but he was now running a stage where loyalty, ego, and survival were fighting for control in real time. In the end, fans couldn't look away. The chaos, the feuds, the betrayal, it was all part of the Cash Money experience, a high-stakes game of power, pride, and performance, where every move meant something, and every silence screamed louder than words. By the time the dust settled, one truth stood tall. Cash Money wasn't just breaking down, it was burning out. What was once the symbol of Southern dominance had turned into a battlefield of pride, betrayal, and survival. Birdman had built an empire on loyalty, but by 2025, even the most loyal soldiers were gone or plotting their escape. The cars, the chains, the private jets, they used to scream success. Now they look like relics from a kingdom that forgot how to evolve. Toni Braxton's exit was the first domino. Her silence spoke volumes. She saw what was coming long before the fans did. Lil Wayne reclaimed his freedom, Juvenile moved with quiet grace, Nicki built her own empire, and Drake played the long game. The smart one. Every person who once stood beside Birdman found a way to rise without him. That wasn't coincidence. It was survival. Birdman, once the untouchable mogul, had become a cautionary tale. The same power that made him unstoppable was the same thing that swallowed him whole. His empire wasn't destroyed by outsiders, it crumbled from within. Every unpaid check, every silenced artist, every secret deal came back around. Karma doesn't knock, it kicks the door down. By the end of 2025, Cash Money wasn't a family anymore. It was a name haunted by its own legacy. What used to be unity had turned into competition. The same studio walls that birthed legends were now echoing with ghost royalties, lawsuits, and memories of what used to be. And through it all, Birdman stayed defiant, claiming control even as the crown slipped right through his hands. But that's the thing about hip-hop. Empires fall, but the truth always rises. What Toni exposed, what Wayne fought for, what Drake and Nicki quietly reclaimed, it all paints one final picture. Power without fairness will always eat itself alive. The game changes, but the lessons never do. Money fades, fame fades, but legacy, that's earned, not bought. So maybe Birdman didn't poison himself with lean or rituals. Maybe it was ego, greed, and control that did it. The poison was never in the cup. It was in the contracts, the habits, the hunger for more. The Cash Money story will always be remembered, not just for the hits, but for the heartbreak, the manipulation, and the rebellion that came after. The artists who broke free are now rewriting their own stories, and the world's watching every move. Because at the end of the day, this saga wasn't just about music, it was about power, freedom, and truth finally catching up. This is BarzBuzz, where we don't just talk about the drama, we break down the real story behind the hits. So what do you think? Did Birdman lose it all, or is he just waiting for the next play? Drop your take below. Your comment might just make the next headline. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.